As you all know, I've relieved Ralph Krueger and Steve Smith of their coaching duties. They're great people. Have a lot of respect for both of them. I want to thank them for what they did for this organization. And as I mentioned right at the beginning, it was very difficult. Effective immediately, the interim head coach will be Don Granato. Matt Ellis and Dan Girardi will take on the interim assistant coaching role. And Mike Bales, Miles Fee, and Kyle Smith will continue in their current roles.
Kevyn, you were pretty angry when we spoke with you a couple of weeks ago. As time has gone by here, what made the decision to do it now? What have you seen, and what made you decide that now is the time?
It felt to me that it felt right that it needed to be done now. I think we could talk about could have done before. For me, this is about results that haven't been good enough. I look and evaluate everything, and I was trying to take a real honest, fair evaluation, understanding the adversity and the situation our team was in, taking it all into account. But it felt like the right time now, and this is about moving forward. This is about how do we improve. I do believe every crisis is an opportunity for positive change, and this is a chance for us to move forward and to begin to get this thing pointed in the right direction.
Kevyn, what qualities are you looking for in the next coach of the Buffalo Sabres? And do you plan on beginning your search right away for a full-time head coach? Is Don Granato going to be considered for that job?
Yeah, I'm not going to put any guardrails on anything right now. I'm not going to get into specifics. What I will tell you is that the search will be effective immediately. I have in my head, and I've thought a lot about this recently, characteristics and attributes that I think will be important for this organization, this team moving forward. There'll be a lot of people that I will speak to. There will be other people part of the process as we go along. But what I don't want to do is rush into anything or make a quick decision without truly taking as much time as we need, because this is about getting it right. It's great to say I'm looking for this or that, or they have to have this or that. This is about getting the right person, and it's critical.
Hey, Kevyn, John Worrell with the AP. Just, I guess, wondering what contributed to this decision, knowing that you're essentially handcuffed in terms of what you can do with the roster, what you can do with the limited number of coaches that are available to take over an interim basis, and knowing that you're still in this tough East Division where winning it might be difficult, and knowing the injuries that you're dealing with. What gives you a belief that this team can continue growing, I guess, under an interim coach and have different results than what's been behind it?
John, I think the important way to answer that question is we have to be better in every single area of this organization. It starts with me. I need to manage better. Okay. I need to be better in every way. We need to coach better. We need to scout better. We need to develop players better. We need to practice better. I mean, you name it, we need to do it better, period. And I said it a couple weeks ago, it's unacceptable in every area. And so why do we do it? Well, we're doing it because we feel that we have to start to improve. And of course, results matter. This is a results business, and where we are is unacceptable. It speaks for itself, but it's deeper than that. And to change the culture and to do what we have to do to get this headed in the right direction, I felt this was the move we had to make, regardless of all those things that you mentioned, because that's all real and everybody knows that, but I don't know if that answers it perfectly, John, but that's, what's in my head right now.
Hi, Kevyn. Certainly Ralph made mistakes, and we understand that, and this move is probably overdue. But to me, it really comes down to a team that quit on its coach that put out the most embarrassing effort maybe in franchise history Monday night on the coach and on your watch. And now it's a team that the players have quit on multiple coaches, many of the marquee players. So what's your message to these players going forward about having some shred of accountability for their performance that we've seen in multiple years result in coaches getting fired?
Mike, I think, you kind of answered your own question. It is players need to understand it. I'm going to have a very honest conversation about that tomorrow when our players are here. There has to be a pride that goes with putting on a Buffalo Sabres jersey. There has to be a pride of showing up every day and being a National Hockey League player, of looking around and saying, I'm one of the 700, 800, whatever it is in the league that get to do this every day. And that has to be something that just is inside you and drives you to be better every single day. To love to look around the city of Buffalo and see Sabres hats and signs and people wearing jerseys, that matters. And that has to be within the DNA of our team. So I don't care where we are in the standings right now. If we do not show up at the rink tomorrow and for the rest of this season have that characteristic about our team, it's going to be unacceptable. And that is going to be a message and something that I'm going to spend time on. And as we evaluate players and we scout players, that needs to be part of it. You have to just love to show up every day and want to compete and be a Buffalo Sabre.
Kevyn, you mentioned the word culture, and there's been this culture of losing surrounding this team for years and years now. And I know that you obviously, just came into this role not long ago, but how do you go about maybe convincing, I don't know if that's the right word, but communicating to these players that have been here through all of this, that the next guy I bring in here, the culture is going to change? How do you go about doing that?
Yeah, Heather, it starts with stacking wins. Okay, so how I look at this for me personally is if we all stack wins in the things that we do every day, they start to add up. And then the culture shift, and I've been part of it as a player and I've seen it before, can happen quickly because you get some buy-in and people feel good. But we have to individually first start and say, look in the mirror and say, okay, what do I need to do today to be better? How do I stack a win? How in my role do I make a good decision? And this was a tough decision today, and in a very difficult season and all this stuff going on. But now my next decision has to be the right one, and it has to be the right one after that, and stacking wins on top of each other. And then in little things that players have to do in practice that will start to work together and stack on top of each other. Those are the ways, Heather, and that's how I see it, from a 30,000 foot view of kind of big picture, how you have to do it. But it starts with each of us. It's each of us individually challenging, pushing, and being our best. And kind of goes back to my last answer, and loving, getting up every day and having this burning desire to succeed in this organization. And as a Buffalo Sabre player, coach, manager, whatever it is, scout, then we all share that, great things can happen.
Kevyn, on the ice, what are you looking to see from this team this second half of the season under an interim head coach?
Yeah, we compete. We need to be better in the harder areas of the game. We need to defend better and quicker and more tenaciously. We need to do a better job in the offensive zone of getting to the inside in the harder areas. We need to manage the game better. When you have your end of a shift and the puck's on your stick, do you take that hit and get the puck deep so you don't turn it over and have an odd man rush the other way? Those are the little things. And again, that's stacking the good things up on top of each other that point you in the right direction. And the results do take care of themselves. This is a result business, but if you do the right things, shift in and shift out, you start to win shifts, and then you win periods, and then you win hockey games. So let's not overcomplicate this. We want to be better. We have to be better, and we will be better.
Kevyn, when did you tell Ralph? Did you tell him on the plane, and how did he handle the news?
I spoke to Ralph first thing this morning, met with him, and then Steve Smith shortly after. And Ralph was disappointed. I have learned a lot from Ralph as a person, and his leadership qualities and different attributes that he has. And it was a very honest and hard conversation. Obviously disappointed, and believed to his core that could turn this around. But my job was just to tell him where I felt we were and have an honest conversation, and that's what we did earlier today.
Kevin, looking at the recent hires, Dan Bilesma, Phil Housley, both not able to connect. I think it's fair to say they probably took a more hard-nosed approach than Ralph did. And Ralph, it worked last year for a period, but obviously things have gone off the rails. I guess the focus of my question is, what do you think you need? And in terms of the attributes you're looking for, and given the numbers, I mean, Don Granato, I think, is the 7th coach who's worked under the Pagulas. Are you concerned about who you're going to be able to attract here?
No, I guess to start with the latter question you asked. No, not at all. And I'm not in. The past for me is part of the story and understanding, and that matters. But the focus for me is moving forward. And I understand from the fan base or from the media that has been, living through this over the last number of years. I have sympathy. I understand. Trust me, I get it. Like I've said over and over again in press conferences, I get it more than probably most people would. But it's about getting this right and moving forward. And in my job, doing everything and anything to make that happen. I think one of the art of coaching that I've seen over the years, real positive attributes, is someone, the relationships are important. You need to build trust and relationships with players, but there has to be an accountability that goes with that, so that's something that I just think is really important overall. And I think every player that's ever played understands that too. That's what players want.
Hey, Kevin, you said you're not going to rush anything, and I totally understand that, but I'm wondering where the balance is between making a decision while there are some candidates who, have pretty impressive track records that are out and available right now, and then waiting when there might be more job openings with other teams, and then maybe some of the more attractive candidates then choose those more attractive jobs. Where does the balance lie there?
Yeah, I'm not going to timeline it at all. For me, it's about getting it right. So if we felt that it was absolutely the right person, and it happens quicker, then okay. If it needs to take a longer time because we haven't found the right person, or just this isn't that easy of a time to just have conversations, and meet people face to face either. So I don't want to be rushed in anything. It's about getting it right, and that's what is something that I've talked about since June. It's so important, the people and how we move forward, and we have to make sure on this.
Hey, Kevin, Pierre LeBrun, how are you? You've got a busy month ahead of you as well with the trade deadline. And when you signed Taylor Hall, you had indicated potential desire to keep Brown past this year, but a lot has clearly transpired since then. Is it inevitable now that you'll approach him about potentially waiving his no move to trade him for April 12th?
Yeah, we're open to anything and everything, Pierre. My job is to do anything and everything to make this franchise move in the right direction. I have a very good relationship with Darren Ferris and Taylor, open lines of communication, and obviously that's, days are moving fast here, so there'll be a lot of conversations around that.
Hi, Mr. Adams. Given the team's overall standing in the league, are you looking to be sellers in the trade deadline?
Yeah, it's the same answer for me. Is open to anything and everything, to improving. Obviously where we are in the standings lends the fact that I'll be getting phone calls, or have been getting phone calls on players, and conversations every day, a lot of conversations. So, absolutely. This is my job to make sure that not only I'm proactive, but listening as well, and doing everything I can to move this thing forward.
Kevin, I'm just wondering if you could take us through sort of the process that you took the last week and a half, 2 weeks to evaluate the situation. You've been with the team on the road, you've been watching closely. What sort of conversations were you having? First year as a general manager, it's a pretty significant decision to make, and I know it was yours to make. So how did you go about evaluating it?
Yeah, Lance, it's a good point to bring it all up, because it's not as simple as ultimately wins and losses are what you're judged on and what happens in the standings, but it's deeper than that. So for me, certainly part of this was understanding our players' mindset, and the players really, really love Ralph Krueger. They respect him and believe in Ralph. And so, understanding that dynamic of what our locker room was like, obviously talking to a lot of players, how are they doing with each other? And, I've been part of situations in the past as a player where when things aren't going well, it can get toxic quick, it really can. And trying to keep a pulse on that. Our locker room, the guys are getting along, the coaches communicated well with the players throughout this whole process. So for me, that's part of the evaluation. And then obviously you have all the other stuff that goes along with the coaching part. And ultimately the results speak for themselves. The standings speak for themselves. We're not where we need to be. And I felt it was the right time to make the change.
Kevin, I wanted to expand on the Taylor Hall conversation just for a moment, if I could. Have you had talks with Darren Ferris to extend Taylor? I mean, have you gotten that far with it where you at least have chatted with him about a contract extension?
Yeah, we openly in the beginning, like when this all happened, the free agency date's different than I was about to say July 1st, but you know what I mean, whenever that was, talked about, what would we do moving forward in concepts. So we've had open dialogue back then, and Darren and I have been in touch recently, and we've had conversations both ways. So we'll see where this goes, Paul.
Hey Kevin, how are Don, Matt, and Dan approaching this with their conversation you've had? How are they going to walk into the locker room and get control, basically?
Yeah, so Don Granato's been a head coach for many years in different levels of professional hockey. He's been in the college game. He's been in the national program, has a development background, as a teacher kind of mentality. So he's commanded a room in as a head coach before. So when it comes to Matt and Dan, Matt is he's been with the team all season in his development role. He'll continue in the development, but he's going to step into this as well. So the players have been seeing him every day. He's been on the ice every day. So I don't see, any sort of kind of burn-in time for him in terms of relationships with players. And Dan Girardi for me is someone that was very, very well respected in the league when he played. High character, high compete, thought the game very well as a defenseman, which I thought would be very helpful in a short time to bring some fresh perspective. I've been extremely impressed with Dan in his role as a development coach on our staff for the past few months. The attention to detail he showed, the discipline, the amount of work he's done with our prospects. So, there's always transition and, kind of finding your way. And we have, I think, 28 games in 53 days coming up. I think we're exactly halfway. So, it's gonna move fast, but I have no doubt all three of them will jump right in. And, Dan will, I don't believe, be able to coach tomorrow because of quarantine rules. So, we may have Seth Appert come in for a game here, just to all hands on deck. We're going to do our best, but I'm excited for the opportunity that all three of them
have. Kevin, actually, I have two questions, but the first, why can't Granato coach tomorrow?
Granato can coach. Maybe I said it wrong. Girardi can't coach because of quarantine.
Okay, thank you. The question I had is, do you expect Jack Eichel to play again this season? Have you spoken about this decision about moving out of Ralph, and what can he be doing better as a captain to keep his teams together?
Yeah, so we're hopeful that Jack will be able to move forward here and get back in the lineup. You know, obviously, I think it's been out publicly that he had to serve the quarantine after getting a second opinion. So we're kind of almost out of that situation, and he'll be reevaluated. And yeah, so we're hopeful. You know, I think as any young leader, especially because Jack's been around, but he still is young. You're constantly learning and juggling what it takes to be at your best and also have an eye on the team and what's happening overall. And you know, Jack is one of the best players in the world. We just want to get him healthy and back on the ice and able to do his thing.
Hey, Kevin, there's a lot of opinions out there in terms of, you know, what should happen with the front office and, you know, the amount of staff you have, no assistant GMs. What are your thoughts though? Like, do you need more help? Is moving forward with a lot of work to do? Does there need to be more bodies in the front office?
Yeah, I'm currently, you know, looking to fill the assistant GM role now. We'll be speaking to, I guess the search would be ongoing here, and definitely. I think if you go back to June, one of the things we talked about is finding the right people and kind of maybe catching my breath and understanding everything that was going on and evaluating where we see that we need to fill in, knowing all along that we absolutely had to fill in different roles. So that's something that I'm working on right now, and keep you posted on.
Kevin, you mentioned it briefly when talking about Girardi and his experience with defense. How critical is the remainder of this season to getting your young defensemen playing the way they're capable of?
Very, very important. I think the National Hockey League is a hard league to develop in. It's the best league in the world. So, you know, regardless of talent and expectations, there's times where young players are just going to have great games and then down games and great games. So it's finding the consistency. And I do think Dan is a fresh perspective, and kind of coming not that long ago playing in the National Hockey League will be very relatable in certain ways, especially with the way the game's played now. And I'm looking forward to him getting in and teaching. But no, it's critical, and we need to make sure that we take steps with all our players, not just our young players.
Good morning, Kevin. I know you said that players love playing for Ralph. I think it was Rasmus or Salinen who said he's the best coach, or my favorite coach that I played for. So when you look back and evaluate not just this year, but also sort of the end of last year, I mean, maybe more so focusing on this year, I mean, why do you think, you know, the last couple of weeks have kind of gone down the way they have? Do you think maybe it just wasn't a good fit for necessarily what Ralph wanted to do with these players and how these players responded? Was it purely just an X's and O's issue with Ralph?
Yeah, I've spent a lot of time thinking about that. That's part of the evaluation, because what you said is right. The players care about Ralph and believe in Ralph, and the reality is it has to translate to on-ice success, and where we are isn't good enough. You know, and I talk about our team and this town, and you know, we need to have an identity moving forward and build this team where the players love playing, they compete hard, the fans love watching it, and it's all connected. You know, I know I've seen it in this town before, and I know what that does for our fan base, and I understand that, and we're not there. And that's where, when I go back to earlier, and I said every part of our organization has to be better, and it starts with me. And the accountability factor is something that is real, and we all have to understand that. And it's not saying, oh, if this guy was better over here or they were better over there. It's all of us looking in the mirror and being better.
Kevin, why was Steve Smith fired, and did Rasmus Dahlene's regression this season play a role in that?
No, I think Steve's a very good coach. He's a great person. Put a lot of work into it. I think it was just getting a fresh perspective, different voice. You know, Steve's been here now a few years, so that was my thinking there. But across the board, our players need to be better. And, that wasn't, any one particular thing.
Kevin, with the fans being allowed back in the building later this week, how much did the potential for fan backlash in the building play into the timing of this decision? And really, how much did that play into this overall?
Paul, I'd never even entered my mind. I think that for me, if I start thinking about those type of things, it takes me away from what my job is, to be so focused on our hockey team. I hope that eventually we're able to open this back up and our fans are back and they become proud to watch the team that we have on the ice. And right now it hasn't been good enough, but I wasn't thinking about that going through this evaluation process and ultimately making this decision.
Hey, Kevin, I just wanted to follow up. I think it was Mike's question on Jack Eichel. You addressed the injury situation, but the other component of that was, to what degree have you talked to Jack, if at all, about this decision? And again, I would ask you, have you gauged his level of patience for the situation here with regard to where he wants to play in the future? Because I know that's a big point of speculation for a lot of people.
Yeah, I communicated with the leadership group this morning about the decision that I had made with Ralph and Steve. From the beginning, one of the things I said was building a relationship with Jack is important. We've done that. We've spoken at length in the off season and into the season. The last 7 or 8 days he's been in quarantine, so he hasn't been in the building or around the team. But it's important. You want to have open communication, and Jack knows my door is always open, and we talk regularly.
All right, we're all set, Kevin. Thank you for your time and your answers today, and thank you to everybody else for joining.
Thank you.